In 1907, an old Tennessee doctor entered a valley where nobody answered their doors after sunset. 3 weeks later, he burned every note he had written, resigned from medicine, and spent the rest of his life refusing to explain what happened in Ashwick Hollow. Before his death in 1934, he left behind only one warning. If somebody knocks 3 times, never wait for the second knock. Nobody understood what he meant, until his journals were discovered. According to those journals, everything began with 3 letters. None were signed, none contained names, but each carried the same message. People aren't sleeping. Children hear voices after dark. Please come before summer. 61-year-old Dr. Alton Graves had spent nearly 40 years treating isolated mountain settlements. He believed in diseases. He believed in medicine. He did not believe in ghost stories. 2 days later, he arrived in Ashwick Hollow. At first glance, the valley seemed ordinary. Smoke rose from chimneys. Gardens had been watered. Fresh bread cooled beside windows. Livestock wandered freely, but the streets were empty. Nobody greeted him. Nobody waved. Even stranger. Every house had mirrors hanging above the doors, and every porch had deep scratches beneath the handles. Near sunset, Dr. Graves reached the general store, where Postmaster Silas Wren hurriedly nailed shut the shutters. "You should have arrived yesterday," Silas whispered. "Why?" The old man locked the door. "Because nobody here opens doors after dark." The answer sounded absurd, until Dr. Graves noticed that every family had already extinguished their lamps. No music, no conversation, no dogs barking, nothing. Around midnight, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow knocks echoed downstairs. Silas instantly extinguished the lantern. His face turned white. Then a voice came from outside. Soft, gentle, familiar. "Silas." The postmaster stopped breathing. "My wife," he whispered. "That's Martha." Dr. Graves frowned. "She's outside." Silas slowly shook his head. "Martha died 7 years ago." The voice returned. Silas opened the door, cold. Dr. Graves stood. Silas grabbed his arm. "No." His hand shook violently. "It never stays at one house." The knocking suddenly stopped. Seconds later, another porch, another door. Then another. Something was moving through the valley, calling people by name. Nobody answered. Nobody even looked outside. Before sunrise, Dr. Graves stepped onto the porch. All the dogs in Ashwick Hollow were gone. Fresh, muddy footprints led toward the front door, but none led away, and carved into the wood beneath the handle. Words that had not been there the night before. "Second knock tonight." Then Dr. Graves noticed something even stranger. Small, barefoot prints. Dozens of them. As though children had stood outside the house all night, watching. Dr. Alton Graves barely slept after the night's knocking. At sunrise, the people of Ashwick Hollow slowly emerged from their homes, as though nothing unusual had happened. Women swept porches. Men fed livestock. Children played beside wells. Nobody mentioned the voices. Nobody asked about the missing dogs. And nobody looked surprised when Dr. Graves brought it up. Instead, they avoided the subject entirely. The doctor spent the morning visiting homes. Every family complained of the same things. Sleepless nights. Children waking up screaming. Voices calling from outside windows. Strange knocking after midnight. But whenever Dr. Graves asked what the voices sounded like, people changed the subject, as though saying it aloud frightened them more than hearing it. By noon, schoolteacher Miriam Holt quietly approached him outside the church. Her voice trembled. "You need to see the Parker place. The Parker's sick." Miriam swallowed. "They sent for help yesterday, but nobody's seen them since." The Parker family consisted of Samuel Parker, his wife Ruth, and their 2 daughters. Dr. Graves expected illness. Instead, he found something far stranger. Breakfast still sat on the table. Eggs remained warm. Fresh coffee filled cups. Beds were unmade. Laundry hung beside the stove. Nothing appeared abandoned. Yet the house was empty. Completely empty. No signs of struggle. No blood. No luggage missing. Nothing. But what truly disturbed him were the footprints. Fresh, muddy footprints covered the floor. They entered through the front door, crossed the kitchen, then climbed the staircase. Dr. Graves slowly followed them upstairs. Miriam refused. "I'm not going up there." The footprints led to the children's bedroom and stopped. No prints leaving, no open windows, no hidden doors, nothing, as though 4 people had simply vanished inside the room. Dr. Graves searched every inch. Closets, under beds, attic entrance, nothing. Then he noticed something strange. Every mirror in the room had been covered with blankets, and written on the wall behind one blanket were 6 words: "Don't let them answer twice." The handwriting looked hurried, desperate, almost panicked. Miriam burst into tears. "Samuel wrote that." "How do you know?" "Because he painted our church signs." She pointed to the letters. "ID, know his handwriting anywhere." Suddenly, they heard footsteps below. Heavy footsteps. Both froze. Someone had entered the house. Dr. Graves grabbed his revolver. The footsteps moved slowly through the kitchen, then stopped. Silence. He hurried downstairs. Nobody. The front door remained closed. But on the dining table, something new had appeared. A child's doll. Neither of them had seen it before. Its clothes were soaking wet, and pinned to its chest was a note, written in the same desperate handwriting. "Don't open after the second knock." Dr. Graves stared at the message. Then his blood ran cold, because beneath the table, fresh muddy footprints had appeared, small barefoot prints, and they were still wet, as though whoever made them had only just stepped away. Then somewhere upstairs, a little girl's voice quietly laughed. But according to Miriam Holt, neither Parker daughter had ever learned how to laugh. Both girls had been born deaf. By the 3rd day, Dr. Alton Graves had stopped trying to explain things with medicine. Illness made sense, fevers made sense, but empty houses, footprints that stopped in the middle of rooms, and deaf children somehow laughing upstairs. None of it made sense. Yet, what disturbed him most was the behavior of the townspeople. Nobody seemed surprised. Terrified, yes, but surprised. It was as though everyone in Ashwick Hollow had been expecting something, and nobody wanted to speak about it. Except one man. 82-year-old farmer, Clyde Fenwick. He arrived at the post office before sunrise and quietly handed Dr. Graves a rusted key. "Father said you'd come eventually." Dr. Graves frowned. "Your father? He died 30 years ago." The old farmer nodded. "He said one day a doctor would ask questions." Then he pointed toward the church. "Basement, and don't stay after sunset." Before the doctor could ask anything else, Clyde walked away. Silas Wren looked pale. Clyde's father disappeared in 1859. The doctor stared. What? People buried an empty coffin. That afternoon, Dr. Graves and schoolteacher, Miriam Holt, entered the abandoned church basement. Behind old shelves, they discovered an iron door. The key fit perfectly. Inside lay dozens of journals. Dust covered everything. Some books dated back to 1818, others to 1841, and every journal contained identical descriptions. Voices after dark, 3 knocks, missing animals, children hearing their names whispered, entire families disappearing. But what terrified Dr. Graves was the dates. Every 23 years, without fail, the same pattern repeated, and each journal ended with the same sentence: "Never answer the second knock." Then Miriam suddenly froze. "Doctor." She pointed at a photograph hanging on the wall, black and white, taken sometime in the 1880s. Several church members stood together, among them, an elderly man. Miriam's face turned white. "That's Clyde Fenwick." Dr. Graves nodded. "Yes, no." She stepped backward. "Doctor, that picture was taken in 1887. Clyde would have been 20 years old. But that's him, not younger, not older. Exactly the same beard, the same face, the same eyes." Neither spoke. Then Dr. Graves noticed writing beneath the frame: "Survivors, summer of 1887. Survivors, not residents. Survivors." Then he discovered another photograph, and standing among those people was the same man. Again, unchanged. The doctor's hands trembled. That wasn't possible. Nobody lived that long. Suddenly a sound echoed from somewhere above them. Knock, knock, knock. The two froze. The church was supposed to be empty. Then came footsteps, slow, heavy. Walking across the sanctuary floor, Miriam whispered, "Who's up there?" Neither moved. Then a little voice answered from directly above them, soft, almost cheerful. "Miss Holt." Miriam's blood froze, because she recognized the voice immediately. It belonged to her younger brother Elias, the same brother who had drowned in the river when he was 8 years old. 32 years earlier. Tears filled her eyes. "Elias," Dr. Graves grabbed her arm. "No." But the voice came again, closer, gentle. "Come upstairs." Then another voice joined it, and this one made Dr. Graves stop breathing. It belonged to his daughter Eleanor, the daughter buried beside her mother in Nashville 12 years earlier. "Papa." Silence filled the basement. Then knock, knock, knock. Except this time, the sound wasn't above them. It came from the iron door behind them, and they both knew with absolute certainty. Neither of them had closed it. Dr. Alton Graves slammed the iron door shut. The knocking stopped immediately. Neither he nor Miriam Holt spoke. They simply stood in the darkness, breathing heavily. Then the voice returned. Not from behind the door, from upstairs. "Eleanor," Miriam whispered. "No." Dr. Graves wiped sweat from his forehead. "We leave now." They rushed up the basement stairs. But the sanctuary above wasn't empty. Every pew was occupied. Men, women, children, all sitting silently, facing the altar. Dr. Graves stopped. His blood ran cold, because every single person in the church was someone buried in Ashwick Hollow Cemetery. Faces he had seen on gravestones. Samuel Parker, Ruth Parker, the Parker girls, old Martha Wren. People who had died decades apart. Nobody moved, nobody blinked. They simply sat there, watching, then all together. They turned their heads toward the doctor. Miriam screamed. The church instantly became empty. Not one person remained. Silence, only dust. Dr. Graves nearly collapsed. He and Miriam ran outside. Night had already fallen, but according to his watch, it was only 4 in the afternoon. That was impossible. The sun had disappeared, and every house in Ashwick Hollow had already locked its doors. Silas Wren stood on his porch, terrified. "Get inside." The doctor ran toward him. "Silas, what is happening here?" The old man burst into tears. "Because we know what knocks." Dr. Graves froze. Silas slowly removed the mirror hanging above his front door. Behind it was writing. Hundreds of names. Generations of names. Every family in Ashwick Hollow had done the same thing. Names hidden behind mirrors. "Why?" Silas whispered. "Because names disappear." Dr. Graves frowned. "What?" "My father forgot my brother. My grandfather forgot his wife. We write them down before it takes them." Then Silas pointed toward the mountain. Black smoke rose from the trees. There used to be another settlement up there, Hawthorne Ridge. It had 60 people. Nobody remembers them. No maps show it. No records mention it. But my grandmother escaped. Dr. Graves stared. Escaped from what? Silas looked toward the dark woods, and quietly answered, "The second knock." Then he explained the truth. Every 23 years, voices returned. First came sleepless nights, then missing animals, then familiar voices outside doors. Most people resisted, but eventually someone answered. And once a person answered, the voices came back a second time. Those who answered twice disappeared, not died, disappeared, and slowly, everyone forgot they had ever existed. Families kept journals because memories faded. Photographs changed. Names vanished. Entire bloodlines were erased. That's why nobody opened doors after dark. That's why mirrors covered names. That's why old records existed beneath the church. Suddenly knock, knock, knock. Everyone froze. Not outside. Inside Silas's house. From upstairs. Then came footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Walking across the floor above them. Silas turned white. "No." Dr. Graves looked up. "Who's upstairs?" Silas began shaking. "My son." "What son?" Tears filled the old man's eyes. the one nobody remembers. Then came a voice, soft, "Young Dad." Dr. Graves stared at Silas, because according to town records, Silas Wren had never had children, and yet, on the mantel above the fireplace sat a photograph, a family portrait. Silas, his wife Martha, and a boy around 12 years old. But something about the photograph made Dr. Graves stop breathing. The boy's face wasn't blurred. It wasn't scratched out. There was simply nothing there. And upstairs, the voice called again, "Dad," followed immediately by 3 slow knocks on the bedroom door. But this time, someone knocked back. Nobody moved. The 3 men stood frozen beneath the staircase. Silas Wren had gone completely pale. The knocking upstairs had stopped, but someone had answered. Dr. Alton Graves knew it. He had heard it clearly. 3 knocks, and then 3 more. From inside the room, Silas whispered through trembling lips. "No one's supposed to answer." Before anyone could react, footsteps crossed the floor above. Slow, deliberate, not 1 set, 2. Dr. Graves grabbed his lantern. "We need to go upstairs." Silas immediately grabbed his arm. "No." The old postmaster was crying. "My father went upstairs in 1887, and Silas swallowed. He came back." Dr. Graves frowned. "Came back." Silas nodded. "But he didn't know who my mother was. He didn't know his own name. And 3 weeks later, everybody forgot him." The doctor felt his blood run cold. Then another sound came. Not footsteps. Laughter. A child's laughter. From behind the bedroom door, Silas collapsed. "My son." Ignoring him, Dr. Graves climbed the stairs. The hallway was dark. The bedroom door stood closed, and beneath it, mud slowly leaked across the floorboards. Fresh mud, as though someone with wet feet stood inside. Knock, knock. The doctor froze. The sound wasn't coming from the room. It came from inside the walls. Every wall, all around him. Then a voice, soft, familiar. "Eleanor." Dr. Graves stopped breathing. His daughter, dead for 12 years. "Papa." Tears filled his eyes. For one terrible moment, he almost answered. Then he remembered the journals. Never answer the second knock. He backed away, but the voice changed. Now it sounded frightened. "Papa, please." Then crying, then screaming. The doctor's hand reached for the doorknob. Suddenly Miriam Holt appeared and pulled him backward. No, at that exact moment, the bedroom door slowly opened by itself. Inside stood dozens of barefoot children, silent, covered in mud, their eyes fixed on the hallway. Among them stood the Parker girls, and beside them, a 12-year-old boy without a face. Silas's son. Every child raised one hand together and pointed behind Dr. Graves. He turned and nearly died from terror. Standing at the end of the hallway were hundreds of people, men, women, children, faces he had seen in cemetery photographs, missing families, generations of people, all staring silently, and all together they whispered. Second knock, the lantern exploded. Darkness swallowed everything. 3 days later, Dr. Graves awoke inside the church. Beside him sat Miriam Holt. Ashwick Hollow was empty. Every house abandoned. No animals, no people, no smoke, nothing. According to nearby towns, Ashwick Hollow had been deserted for 20 years. Nobody remembered Silas Wren. Nobody remembered the Parker family. Nobody remembered Miriam Holt. Dr. Graves stared. Miriam, the schoolteacher, looked confused. Who's Miriam? She introduced herself as Abigail Mercer. She claimed she had never met him before. The church basement journals were gone. The photographs were gone. Even the cemetery had changed. Half the names had disappeared. Dr. Graves left that same day. He resigned from medicine 6 months later. And in 1934, shortly before his death, his grandson found the old doctor burning every journal he had kept. "Grandfather," he asked, "what happened in Ashwick Hollow?" The old man stared into the fire, then quietly replied, "I wrote their names down, but every year I remember fewer of them." He threw the final journal into the flames. Only 1 page survived. On it, written in shaking handwriting, were 8 words. Never stay long enough for the second knock. And according to postal records, No place called Ashwick Hollow has ever existed. Yet every 23 years, unmarked letters arrive in eastern Tennessee. None are signed, but every one contains the same sentence: please come before summer.